Aloha! You are listening to Inside the Desert Oasis Room, episode number 135. This episode is sponsored by Heartland Hemp and Supply Company. All products are broad-spectrum, THC-free, organically grown, and made in the USA. And shipping is free on all orders. For more information, follow them on Instagram at HH Supply Company or place your order today at heartland-hemp.com. This episode is sponsored by Sapporo Beer, Japan's oldest and number one selling beer brand in the United States. Founded in 1876 in Sapporo, Japan, Saibei Nakagawa, the first German-trained Japanese brewmeister, combined his advanced brewing knowledge with his passion for craftsmanship to create a one-of-a-kind beer. For more information or to find a retailer nearest you, go to sapporobeer.com or follow them on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at Sapporo Beer USA. This episode is sponsored by the Tiki Bar T-Shirt Club, where their monthly T-shirt designs pay tribute to a Polynesian bar or restaurant from days long past. Each design is available for a limited time and will never be produced again. For more information and to check out this month's shirt, visit tikibartshirtclub.com. This episode is brought to you by the Magic Zombie Glass, which turns your regular tiki cocktail into a potent voodoo potion that will raise the dead before your very eyes. Just pour a cold beverage into this authentic 13.5-ounce chimney-style glass, and a zombie will magically come to life. Add a bit of mystery and excitement to your backyard luau's this summer by heading over to the Magic Zombie Glass Kickstarter page. For only $20, each order comes with a Magic Zombie Glass and other exclusive collectible items, only available through the Kickstarter campaign. This campaign ends on June 30th, so act fast. Head to Kickstarter now and search for the Magic Zombie Glass. Again, that's Kickstarter.com and search for Magic Zombie Glass. On this episode, we speak with Nick Camara and Ken Holewczynski. Welcome to a special episode of Inside the Desert Oasis Room, as we are joined by two titans in the Tiki publishing game. Nick Camara, the founder of Tiki Magazine, and Ken Holewczynski, the founder of Exotica Moderne, sit down together for a monumental meeting of the magazine minds to chat about their backgrounds, experiences, and challenges of printing their respective magazines based around the Tiki culture. As always, I hope you enjoy this episode as much as we did bringing it to you. And if you did, hit that subscribe button. Subscribing makes it easier for you to follow our adventures. Shares on your social media pages are always appreciated, and if you'd like to help support the show, go to desertoasisroom.com to pick up some merch or make a donation. This podcast does not survive without the help of its sponsors or its listeners, so every purchase or donation, no matter the size, is totally appreciated and helps keep this podcast coming to you every week. Okay, let's get into this. Here they are, the two titans of Tiki Publishing, Nick Camara and Ken Holewczynski.
Desert Oasis Room.
Aloha, folks, and welcome to another edition of Inside the Desert Oasis Room. Have I got an episode for you today? Guess who's here? Nick Camara from Tiki Magazine. And Ken, tell me your last name.
Holewczynski.
Holewczynski.
It's so
I'm
easy.
not the only one with a last name that people
Right.
can't pronounce. So,
Yeah.
Ken Holewczynski from Exotica Moderne. What a treat it is to have both you guys on the podcast today. Thank you so much for joining.
Yeah,
my
no
pleasure.
problem. Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for asking.
I don't even know where to start here. So we have two guys here that are serving the community with their fanzines, for lack of a better term, right? We have this Tiki subculture that people like to follow. And this is really like Tiki Magazine was the only magazine that was serving the community at the time that Tiki Magazine was active.
Right.
Exotica Moderne is doing the same thing. And before we start talking about these two magazines, I want to give a shout out to Otto von Stroheim, who started Tiki News.
Right.
He was the first one who served the community with a Tiki style magazine, which is a really underground fanzine. And as everybody knows now in the Tiki community, Otto is running Tiki Oasis these days. He's been doing it for 20 years. I think this year is the 19th year, and next year will be the 20-year anniversary.
Wow.
Yeah. So how cool is that? Thanks again for joining you guys.
Sure.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much. Let me start by saying welcome to the podcast. For our listeners that don't know, we are in Palm Springs this weekend for Tiki Caliente. And through the suggestion of Kari Hendler, who used to photograph and write for Tiki Magazine.
She was the assistant editor of Tiki Magazine, yeah.
She said, hey, and I wanted to have Nick on the show, and I wanted to have Ken on the show. And she said, you know what, you should have those two guys come on together.
Yeah. It's a
and
great
I
idea.
thought, oh my God.
So it'll be like Rock'em Sock'em Robots by the end of this thing. No, not really. No.
And here we are now, right? So let's get started here. Nick, I haven't seen you in, well, outside of events, I have seen you here in Palm Springs. Actually, the last time I saw you was here in Palm Springs.
Yeah, Liz and I had a eggnog at Christmas time, or a little before Christmas.
Yeah.
We ran into you and Boris.
That was a neat surprise, wasn't it?
That was nice. That was fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that was unexpected. That was a lot of fun. And Ken, actually, this is the first time I met Ken.
First time at Palm Springs, first time at Tiki Caliente, first time meeting you.
Yeah.
First time meeting a lot of people.
First times, yeah.
A lot of conversations over the internet, but face-to-face, this is my first time with a lot of people here.
Yeah. What are your impressions of Tiki
It's
Caliente?
been fantastic so far. Yeah, everybody's been great. As we know, everybody's friendly. Everybody's looking to do something nice for the scene, and we're just all having a good time getting to know each other.
You know, this scene is something that people are very passionate about. People, they like to contribute in different ways, and you guys obviously have contributed with the magazines that you publish for the community, right?
Absolutely.
And I know, as somebody that's a podcaster that depends on advertising, I know you guys aren't making money.
No.
So I know that this is
It's
a passion
tough.
project, right? So,
Oh, yeah.
and I'm saying this to all the folks out there that I'm not like coming down on anybody. I'm just saying that, you know, what we do depends very much on advertising.
Absolutely.
And we don't get rich off of what we're doing.
No,
Right. This
no.
is a passion project that we return to the community because we love what we do.
Absolutely, definitely.
Yeah. As we were joking about, you don't get rich publishing. No.
No, not at all. Right. Unless you're Hugh Hefner.
Right. But then you have to
content's a
deal
little
with the
different than ours,
ensuing
though.
insanity that comes from that, as witnessed by Hugh Hefner.
Yeah. Wow. So I want to get started here. I'm going to actually start with some of Kari's questions here because
She's been mulling these, hasn't she?
she sure has. She's like super excited. She was like, you got to text me when this happens because whatever I am doing, I'm going to break away and I'm going to come over and I'm going to photograph this. This is history in the making. And it really is, you know. Truth be told, when Tiki Magazine started, people in the community as enthusiasts, we don't ever expect it to ever go away. You know, like it becomes part of the community and we just expect it to always be there. And it eventually went away. It's really something that I was always excited to see the latest issue, you know. Nick did such a good job doing that.
you.
So
Thank you.
if you'll excuse me for a moment, Ken, I want to ask Nick a bunch of questions.
No, I get to hear this history too because I really haven't heard it. So this will be
great?
interesting. For me.
Yeah. So Nick, so let me start. One of Kari's questions is, why did you decide to go to all the effort to make a magazine about Tiki?
Well, I think it was a lot of the passion that I had for the subject matter. And honestly, when I first started it, I didn't realize all the work it was going to take to go into it. At some point, you're like in the middle of it and you're like, well, I got to get it done, so I got to just keep pushing forward. As Ken will probably tell you, it's probably turned out to be a lot more work for him than maybe he even thought.
No, I knew. I knew something. Okay. I've done this before. I knew.
Yeah, right.
well, like I don't know the details of what Ken's doing, but I mean, I had to do stuff like I had to get advertising, I had to do content, I had to ship the product. I was wearing many hats when I did the magazine.
Now, when you started the magazine, have you done anything like that in the past?
No, It sounds
I feel sorry for you.
Sounds like Ken has a background in it where I didn't. You know, I'm a high school teacher.
Right.
Ignorance is bliss in this.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was for me.
Right. You know, Kari had told me, she said, you know, Nick started that thing with his own money.
Yes.
And she said, she gave me a dollar figure. Can I say that?
Yeah, sure.
So she said, yeah, you know, he took $30,000 of his own money.
That's true.
To start Tiki Magazine.
Yeah.
And it was totally a passion project.
Oh, definitely.
Would you say it was worth that?
Yeah, because I think of what's happened since then. I've made so many friends that I feel like we'll be friends probably for the rest of my life. Yeah. And like coming to an event like Tiki Caliente, it's like, I don't know, seeing a lot of really close and dear friends. It's been nice.
Yeah, it changed your life.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, like Adrian, you and I, we've known each other for what, 15 or more years?
15 plus.
Yeah.
Because of the magazine.
Yeah. Exactly.
Really? Yeah. What were some of your favorite stories when you were publishing the magazine? Other than when you featured the Desert Oasis room.
Of course.
That was the top #1 best-selling issue, right?
You know what's kind of neat with Tiki Magazine is every time we would basically write up what we wanted to include in a new issue, and when all the content would start coming in, whether it be text, pictures, illustrations, it was always, I felt like a kid at Christmas time.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh man, look at this. This looks so cool. I can't wait till everybody else sees it.
Yeah.
And then to get that big puzzle and put it all together, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
On a creative end, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. What about you, Ken?
In my publication?
Yeah.
Well, you know, I'm only on issue 4, so I'm going to have to pretty much say all of them. But
Okay.
the new one coming out with my interview with Ken Ruzick, he's just, you know, he's insane like the rest of us. And going through the stories that he told me of his gateway into Tiki and how he did everything is a really interesting story, and I'm looking forward to having everybody read that when that comes out at the end of June.
I want to interrupt you real quick and say
Sure.
he's not insane like the rest of us. He's more insane
Oh yeah.
than the
In a
rest
good
of us,
way.
right?
Well, I think that's why we love Ken.
Yeah.
We love Ken. Yeah. Let's talk about what it's like to publish this magazine. I assume, just like any other endeavor, there are challenges. And I'm sure that it sounds like Ken's done this before, so
Right.
the challenges that Ken has experienced is probably different from the challenges that you have experienced, Nick. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I think for me, a lot of it is I was kind of learning on the fly. There were things that I didn't really realize. I'll give you an example. When I started subscriptions, I just had subscriptions based for people in the United States.
Right.
Because I guess being naive, I thought that people outside the U.S. wouldn't even care what we're doing.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, I start getting all kinds of solicitations from people from other countries saying, well, what about us? Can we get subscriptions? And then quickly I had to do my research and figure out shipping costs and whatnot.
Wow.
Yeah.
What about you, Ken?
Challenges for me is just piecing it together, and the time it takes to do that. I mean, you know how long this takes to do this.
It does.
And things kind of trickle in here, trickle in there, adjusting the layout. Oh, someone else wants to buy an ad, now I got to shift everything over.
Right.
The production thing is really challenging to me. I'm not doing subscriptions because aside from doing this and the mugs and the glassware that I do as House of Taboo, I also work for Michigan's 10th largest craft brewer as their
You do?
their creative
Okay. All right.
designer there. I do other labels and packaging,
Okay.
so they chew up a big chunk of my time. I do work for a toy company as well, so this, like we talked, like you were saying before, this is a labor of love, and I squeeze it in, and I put a lot of hours into it. But yeah, the assembling of the magazine, and this is before we started recording, we're laughing like, did you have a mistake every issue? Yes, there's a mistake every issue, because
every issue.
as you're looking at this over the course of the couple of months it takes to assemble before you send it off to the printer, you've looked at it so many times you don't even see the mistakes.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
even
Is
if
it
you have
like-
editors, because I've edited, have sent it to editors to look at, they don't catch things either.
Yeah, of course.
Something always gets missed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, the printer called me as soon as I got here. He's like, guess what? It's on the press, and we saw this. I'm like, run it. It's got to go.
Yeah.
It's not a huge mistake. It's got to run. I don't have time to fix it.
That's part of the challenge of also podcasting, right?
Right.
I can sit there and try to edit to perfection, but you have to make peace with you have to find balance.
Yeah.
And you have to
Yeah.
just say, you know what, it's got to go. It's got to go out.
Yeah.
I mean, like I have a deadline and it's got to go. People are waiting for
At
it.
some point,
and
it
I'm-
has to ship.
And I'm trying to. I have published in the past, so I'm trying to stick to a loose quarterly deadline. Because
Yeah.
there were complaints that issues are missed here and there, and other things, with other people, and it's just like I have to stick to some schedule, and you have to draw that line. You can't just say, oh, I'll just fix it and wait another month or something.
Would you say that those mistakes are the biggest challenges of publishing a magazine? What would you consider some of the biggest challenges?
In my own opinion, I think it's financing.
It's money.
It's money. Yeah.
It is, yeah.
And like you were saying, the advertising really fuels the publication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like this podcast doesn't survive without sponsorship help.
I believe that.
And if I lost my sponsors, truth be told, I just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that keeps me alive because there's no other revenue stream.
Yeah.
I mean, I have merch and that helps,
Mm-hmm.
but when people aren't buying merch, it's advertising that
Yeah.
keeps it alive.
Yeah, if I didn't have the advertisers I did, and they've all been consistent, it's really been helpful. But it's a big chunk of the money to put a down payment with the printer
Yeah.
to get that, and then I was like you. I filled all the orders, and I stuff all the envelopes. I do all this stuff myself.
Yeah.
I work out of my home doing that.
Yeah.
So
You probably wear
it's-
many hats.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
hours and hours and hours of work to do this.
Yeah. How long does it take for you guys to produce an issue? Why don't you start with that one, Ken?
Well, right now, as things do trickle in with me, so I'm probably about a month, start to finish, month and a half, 2 months, but actual hour-wise, I probably have a month of design time in all of this, because I'm doing all the color correction on photography, I'm doing illustrations, I'm doing the layout, I'm piecing that whole thing together. Is that what you did? Did you do all the design on it?
No. My layout and design person was a guy named Eric Gordon.
Okay.
It's kind of interesting story about him. Have you ever heard of the surf line Gordon and Smith?
Yeah.
His father was Gordon of Gordon and Smith.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, Eric works with Gordon and Smith today. They're bringing the label back. And he was my layout and design guy, and he definitely had a lot of experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was great. And he did a lot of that, but we kind of worked side by side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about the Tiki scene and this subculture that we all love so much, that we're very passionate about. I'm going to start with you, Nick.
Sure.
I met you because of Tiki Magazine.
Exactly.
What brought you into the Tiki community and the culture, and what got you to decide to start Tiki Magazine in the first place?
It kind of goes like way, way, way back. For me, it's like when I was a junior in high school, I played on my high school's basketball team, and we went and played in a Christmas tournament in Honolulu. We played at Punahou High School. As a matter of fact, I think that's where Barack Obama went to high school.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. And I went over there, and I just fell in love with Hawaii and the culture and all of that. And then, also being a Southern Californian, the Tiki Room, and then being a San Diegan, the Valley High. The Valley High is a wonderful place where Liz and I still go to and spend time at today.
Okay.
And those were kind of all the things that kind of influenced me. And I've always been a reader of magazines. And I always I'll go to newsstands and look at, there's magazines
I always did that
devoted
too. From a kid on, go to the newsstand, pick up magazines.
If you have an interest, believe me, there's a magazine that supports it. And so I've always loved Tiki and the Hawaiian culture. And I'm like, God, there really should be a magazine that pulls all of this together.
Was it because you wanted more and you went looking for a publication?
That's a good question.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And you thought, you know what, this just doesn't exist.
Yeah. And I no disrespect to Otto, I had looked at Tiki News and I thought it was really cool.
Tiki News was great. I collected
Yeah.
Tiki News before there really was a community.
Yeah.
But there was a time when the issues weren't published as regularly as they
I
were.
know he's super busy. with
Yeah, I
everything.
understand that. And we all have a quench for it, right? This was pre-internet where there wasn't really anything out there. So people are looking for more.
Well, what I kind of thought is, I think the way I look at Tiki, I think Tiki's very visual. I think it's
Sure.
very art-centered. And I kind of
Exactly,
thought,
yeah.
not to discount Otto because he did great stuff, but I thought we could get it, especially because of the great art, and even take it one step further.
Yeah. Now, what about you, Ken?
Yeah.
What brought you into the Tiki subculture?
I probably have a more weird roundabout way. I mean, my childhood experience living in Indiana, so our parents would take us to Florida and hang around like St. Petersburg and hang around the Gulf there. So not so much Tiki, but just, they would go to the supper club lounge shows, but kids were allowed to go in. So I got to experience sort of the Exotica lounge thing that would happen in Florida. And then I'm also a person of very, very varied interests. You know, I grew up with the whole monster scene in the 60s and drifted into doing industrial music. That was one of my previous publications. There was a Chicago publication called Industrial Nation. And like you, I'm like, it's a great magazine, not very consistent. I think I could do better. So then I did a publication as well, too. And I've heard the expression around from a lot of people. It's like, well, Tiki is where punks go to die. So I guess I'm the industrial metalhead.
I hear that
and
a lot.
Tiki is where I'm going to die.
Yeah.
But I've always kind of liked the whole '60s lounge culture. My parents are from that era, and then all these things have just been circling around me. And we started doing the craft cocktail thing because of my wife's work that she does. We deal with a lot of restaurants and bar owners, and it's just. Suddenly these two worlds collided a couple of years ago. I kind of always had an interest in it, but then like you, I'm looking at the art and it's like, here's monsters with fezzes and all this great crazy art and then traditional Tiki stuff, and it's very art centric.
Yeah.
And being an artist
Very
myself, I just, I came with a comic book background, I drew and everything. It's like all of this is merging for me. So, and again, like it's just like I want to show this off and collecting magazines. I could never find the magazine I wanted to buy because no one was talking to me specifically about my interests, So it's like, well, if no one else is doing it, I'll do it.
So I want to talk about the timeline here between the both of you.
Sure.
Because for our listeners, and most of our listeners probably already know that we started with Tiki News, and then we went to Tiki Magazine, and then we went to Exotica Moderne. Let's start with you, Nick. Mm-hmm. Tiki Magazine existed for how long?
I started it in 2004.
Okay.
I came out with my first issue in 2005, which is funny is I actually vended it at a Tiki Oasis with you.
We
Do you
shared
remember
a booth
that?
Together.
Yeah.
And we caught shit from Otto.
Yeah, we did.
Because Otto was Tiki News, and I don't think he particularly liked that.
I don't think Otto dug me very much in the beginning. I think we're okay
The competition
now.
is here.
I think we're okay now. Otto's my friend.
Maybe that should have been the Rock and Sock and Roll.
there you
I
go.
love Otto.
But I came out with my first issue in 2005, and I came out with my last issue in 2013.
Okay. At the risk of getting into Tiki drama,
Sure.
let's talk
Air
about...
quotes. Air quotes.
Air quotes. Let's talk about the time that you sold Tiki Magazine. Tell me why you sold Tiki Magazine.
Sure. The reason I sold Tiki Magazine is I have two kids, and they're both pretty young. Younger than, my son is about to turn 15, and my daughter's about to turn 13. But if you go backwards to 2013, they were little kids.
Right.
And I'm a divorced parent, and I wanted to be there to see my kids grow up.
Right.
And by doing Tiki Magazine and being a full-time high school teacher, with teaching and Tiki Magazine, there wasn't a lot of time for much else.
Yeah.
And by not doing Tiki Magazine, I became a Little League coach, a soccer coach. I could go to all their events.
You became the dad they needed.
Exactly. Yeah. And my two kids today were super close and have a great relationship.
Okay.
So even though it was sad, it was the right move for me.
Okay. Now, when we transitioned from that period, there was a time for a few years that Tiki Magazine was on hiatus, dead. What do we want to call that?
After me?
Hibernation, because it did resurface for a little bit, and then it went back into a period of pause, for lack of a better term.
Well, I can only tell you what I know. is I sold the magazine, and like I said, I came out with my last issue in 2013. And after that, I really had nothing to do with the magazine.
Yeah.
I offered that if they wanted to meet for me to help or be an advisor or anything, and they chose not to. And I didn't want to get in their way.
Right.
And I believe they came out with 9 or 10 issues.
Okay.
But there's been a huge pause, and I know a lot of people are questioning it. And sadly, I think
People missed having a magazine.
oh yeah, and it's needed.
Yeah.
It's totally
Yeah.
needed. And honestly, I don't know exactly what's going on. It hasn't come out in how long? A year and a half, 2 years?
That's okay. We're what I'm trying to do actually is I'm
Right.
trying to transition here and
Yeah.
segue into talking about Ken starting Exotica
Sure.
Moderne, because Ken picked up and filled the void. Right?
Yeah.
He gave the community something that they were missing. So I want to transition to you, Ken, and I
Okay.
want to ask you about that. What made you decide to pick up the ball and run with it?
It was that pause in the last iteration of Tiki Magazine, because I was starting to looking into designing mugs, working with Mulder and Mung Tiki and stuff, and doing some glassware with Gene and all that. I'm like, I'm going to buy an ad. There's this Tiki Magazine. So I ordered some back issues. I'm like, it's pretty nice, I'll place an ad. And then that's kind of was the last of the radio silence from them. So I just thought, I've published my own comic books before. I've done this industrial magazine. I got the design chops to do this. It could be something else I could offer to the community besides being, just another designer. Not that all these guys are just designers. I mean, they're great
Sure,
artists,
yeah.
but I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, this is something else I can do to get involved in this community that I'm starting to love. So it was really odd, because there was a whole thread about the previous magazine and all these people saying, oh, I haven't heard anything, when's something coming out? And I just threw a bone out there. I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about starting a new magazine. I couldn't believe the number of people that jumped in on it. And then I hadn't ever talked or friended Thor, and Thor just messaged me right away, and he's like, I'll do the first cover for you. And then all these, it's like you said, it's this community, all these people coming in just saying,
I was about
I
to say,
wanna
do you
see this
how
happen.
The community, you see how the community gets excited about it.
yeah,
right?
they were so pumped, and everybody was messaging me, and it's like, okay, well, I think this will probably work. So
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me. When I started Tiki Magazine, a lot of people rushed in and said, I'd like to help. I'd
Yeah.
like to be a part of it. It
Yeah.
doesn't surprise me.
So I want to say this. So I'm going to ask you this, Ken. I'm looking at Exotica Moderne right now, and I'm thumbing through this issue that you've put on the table, and it has very much the look and feel of Tiki Magazine. Is that intentional?
I have never seen Nick's version of Tiki Magazine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the early versions were printed on newsprint,
Okay.
Yeah.
but the later versions were printed on this glossy full color.
I don't like to do anything half-assed.
Okay. So
If I was
you
going
guys
to do
are-
this,
you
I was
see-
going to go full color. I was
You
never
see how
gonna,
you guys are on the same wavelength here. You
Right.
guys both have a standard that you're trying to
Oh, yes.
to meet, right? That especially for the community, not just for yourselves, I bet, that you want to give something to the community that they can be happy about.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
that they want to hang on to.
that
They
they-
want to
yeah,
put
yeah.
on their coffee
They'll
tables.
collect
They want to
it.
show
that they
their
want to
friends.
collect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Now, did you know that early issues of Tiki Magazine are selling upwards of $75 or more? Did you know that?
No.
Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy.
They're collectors out of. Did you know that, Nick?
Yeah,
Okay,
I did.
I thought you didn't know that because of the look that
Yeah.
you had. Okay, yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And then the issue with my bar in it, it's nuts.
Oh, I know it. I know
I
it.
just messing
I'm going
around.
to see what happens now, because I'm just coming up on my first year.
Yeah.
And now I'm starting to get all the, do you have back issues? Do you have back issues? So I'm going to be kind of curious to see what happens.
There you go.
Because you might see, I don't know, I'm not going to make money off of it, but you might see prices going up,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you can't reprint, you know that. Once you're sold out, you're sold out. You
That's
can't go back
it.
to the printer. The advertiser is not going to give you a second round of money for the same issue. So
No.
Yeah.
reprinting is not a reality when you're doing a printed publication.
Yeah. Now, what are you guys' thoughts about the current Tiki scene? Nick has seen a lot in the years that he created Tiki Magazine,
Yes.
and it's much different today than it was before.
Oh,
and so
definitely.
what you're seeing today is a lot different. I don't know
I'm
how
sure
far
of
back you
that.
go in Tiki, but I'm curious about that. Like, what are you guys' thoughts about how things have changed over the years and how you guys are covering it with the magazine?
For me, obviously, like I said, I have a lot of different interests, so I don't mind seeing not to a more air quote tiki drama, but there's the purists that want to see full on tiki, traditional tiki, and then there's everybody else kind of doing their fringe thing, some lowbrow stuff, and all this what I like to call cross pollination. I like to see that because my interests are varied, and I'm not an expert like Sven or anybody like that. I'm not going to speak to what's proper traditional tiki. I'm not the expert on that. Sven's done it. If Sven wants to, talk to me about running something to include that in magazine, I'd love to do that. But I like the mix and blend of this stuff.
Did you ever
find
feel
it
any
intriguing.
threat with with internet, right? But magazines are quote unquote dying. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, actually, Trevor here, my son, he was just reading something a while back how print is actually coming back in.
Okay.
People are getting tired of reading on their screens, and you got to
So
take
they
a
do
break.
want magazines.
Yeah, and not just collector communities like us, niche publications. People are tired of reading on computer screens. I know I am. I'm on a computer all day designing. I don't want to read a newspaper or a magazine on a computer screen. I want to go sit down in my living room and flip through something.
But that's today in 2019. But how was it with you, Nick? I mean, like when you started Tiki Magazine, did you feel the same way, or was it a different animal back then?
There's been a lot of changes. Like when I started Tiki Magazine back in '04, I thought the scene was doing pretty well, but I did see a little bit of a lull. I saw some bars close, businesses close. Right. And I think today, and I'm hoping Ken's enjoying the success of it, I see a big upswing with the tiki culture.
Yes.
A lot of bars, a lot of restaurants, a lot of stores devoted.
Well, living in the Midwest, yeah, it's like booming now.
Yeah.
We have Inferno Room down in Indy that I told you about. Mark Sellers is opening the new bar in Grand Rapids with Martin Kate.
Yeah.
That's going to be exciting. And we got Three Dots and Lost Lake in Chicago. Detroit's had a couple new bars open up, so the Midwest is starting to explode as well. So yeah, the culture is spreading, and I think there'll probably be like everything.
It'll ebb and flow.
A few will probably drop off, but the big hitters and the people who are doing it right there's going to be longevity to it. It's like any bar scene, any restaurant scene. Yeah. If you put out good product, good service, people are going to show up.
Yeah.
I'm probably a little bit old school in this way, but I always think people want something tangible, something that they can actually.
That's exactly how I am.
Yeah.
I don't subscribe for music services. I buy CDs, vinyl. I want to support the artist, and I want something for my money. It's an exchange system.
There's nothing like holding a really good magazine in your hand and giving it a good read and looking at the great artwork.
And I get that. I've talked about. There's something about when we were younger, with our generation, getting a new record.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Pouring over the liner notes.
Tearing the plastic open with a razor blade so that you kind of preserved the cover.
Oh
right?
Yeah.
Reading the liner notes.
Actually, when I mail these out,
lyrics.
I insert these in a Mylar sleeve before I even send them out.
There you go.
Yeah, because I know the collector's going to want to keep them. I don't want them
That's
damaged
all
in
part of
shipping.
the experience, right? So when you're listening to this record, right, putting the record on the platter and cleaning the record and cleaning the needle.
It's an experience.
It's a whole, it's tangible. You can only do that when you're holding it,
yes.
right? And when I was in Tiki Magazine, when, I think I got a dozen copies from John Paul, and I was excited to say,
again, it's like Christmas,
right? To my sister or to my friends, and say, hey, I'm in this issue.
Yeah.
Can I give you one? Can you take? Oh, that's so cool. They pop it open and they see, wow, and they're holding like this thing, and then I take it to a feature that you guys had in this magazine was, where are you reading your Tiki Magazine?
Right.
And people would take it come from all over the world. People would be reading this thing, and they'd be standing on Diamond Head, or they'd be standing on, a spit out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
I actually had somebody do that once with a comic book I published. They took a picture of themselves reading it on the Great Wall of China.
Yeah, see?
It's like, seriously?
Yeah, right? How cool is that?
Yeah.
Right?
I had a couple with their Tiki Magazine right before they were going to get married.
Really?
I was blown away by that. Bride and groom with their Tiki Magazine.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
This is one of the bigger days of your life, and you included us.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I have a question now. So I was in Nick's version.
Right. Yeah,
How do I get in this one?
absolutely. Well,
That's a fair question.
it's a fair question, and we will talk about that this weekend.
I would
We
love
will.
to do that.
Yeah.
I'm a supporter of Tiki. I'm a supporter of the small business owner. I'm a supporter of artists. I'm a supporter of anybody who's trying to make their way
That
in the
is
world.
exactly how my wife and I live our lives. Small business, all
People
the way
trying to
through.
make their way in the
I
world,
try and buy
right?
all my music directly from the band, so they make the biggest bang for their buck.
Yeah.
I've always bought independent music, independent magazines. It's just more fun than going down to Walmart and buying whatever the latest Condé Nast publication of People or something.
Yeah.
I don't appreciate that stuff as well. Because the passion's in the small stuff.
Exactly, it is. And you guys are doing a great job with this magazine. Now, I want to ask Nick,
Sure.
as somebody who used to publish Tiki magazine, what do you think of that?
Well, what's interesting is I had been hearing about Ken's magazine for a little bit,
I bet you have.
but I have never seen it until right before this podcast.
Okay.
But I mean, my first impressions right away, you can tell it's very professionally
Yeah,
done.
it is. It's
Yeah,
done very
absolutely.
I have robots do it.
Well, absolutely. I can tell that the people that are doing it they're definitely professionals.
well. Right.
Absolutely.
So you're okay passing the torch here, right?
Oh yeah. Well, to me, I really still believe this, that the Tiki scene needs a magazine.
Yeah.
Whether it's Tiki Magazine or Exotica Moderne or something else, it needs a magazine.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, I have people order 2-3 copies. They're like, I'm keeping one, and I'm reading one's for reading. So yeah, the collector mentality's there, and I appreciate that. And I keep increasing the print run every time.
Yeah.
So hopefully, I'm going to.
So it's growing every month.
It is growing. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
and the next one, I don't know if Jonathan Chafin that does Mug Crate.
Yeah, Jonathan's great.
Yeah, Jonathan's taking copies to the next shipment of Mug Crate.
Okay.
He ordered
Very
extra
cool.
copies, so
Very cool.
it's going
Shout
to get
out
spreading out to
Jonathan.
more people.
Yeah.
So
Horror and Clay. He's a friend of the podcast. He's sponsored it in the past, and so he's
yeah, I sent
he's a big
copies
supporter of the show.
to his show his event that he did down in Atlanta. I sent copies. They were in the gift bags for attendees.
Very nice.
So
Very nice.
yeah, I'm just trying to spread the word out on that too. That way, and
cool.
just keep it moving.
You guys, this is really a treat for me. I want to say thank you for joining us.
Oh, that's
today.
fun. Yeah.
I appreciate it so much. Before we wrap up, Ken, tell us, what is the future of Exotica Moderne?
If I can keep up, I'm going to try and keep the page count, but I want to keep it diverse. And I really wish I could get a few more of the lounge cocktail scene to kind of enter in a little bit, because again, I think that kind of crosses over into this.
Okay.
I mean, obviously the Tiki people everybody in the Tiki community is very, very much into this, but I want to still keep mixing it up a little bit. I really want to work in some comic stuff in it because I'm a comic book fan.
Yeah.
I got the little gag cartoon in there, the cocktail napkin thing, but I've been talking to a few people of just trying to do like one pagers, just short story things, and just to kind of mix it up, keep it interesting to read. So anybody who picks it up was like, like me, I'm a comic book fan, I'm a Tiki file, I'm a cocktail fan, I like the artwork. So every time you pick it up, I want it to stay diverse.
Okay, great.
Because that was really kind of my point of doing this, of bringing all of these kind of things together and maybe just expand the scene as far as bringing in other people into the Tiki scene, coming in through different avenues.
It's exciting. And then, of course, the Desert Oasis is going to be.
Oh yeah. An entire issue.
An entire issue.
An entire
You heard
issue.
Desert Oasis
You heard it first, people. You heard it first.
It's going to come up with a set of your headphones and. Actually, the
There you
fun
go.
thing in the next issue is Monk Tiki sent me a 3D ad, and I get to insert.
Oh my God.
I get to insert
Oh, they're
3D
great.
glasses
Oh my God.
into
How
each
cool is
copy of the
that?
magazine.
That is
It's going to
way
be
cool.
really,
How cool
really.
is that?
The inside front cover is a 3D ad.
Now I
It's
got to
gonna
make
look
sure
so
that I
cool.
get one of those.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I have a whole case of 3D glasses sitting at home that I have to insert into the magazine. So cool things like that, I think, is kind of cool to keep things going.
Yeah. Very cool. So let's throw out the social media for everybody that wants to follow Exotica Moderne.
Right.
Where can they find it? Online.
Online, website is houseoftaboo.com with a U. Don't put in 2 O's or you're going to go someplace you probably don't want to end up. Depending on your preferences in life.
Yeah.
Instagram is the same thing, House of Taboo. Facebook, same thing, House of Taboo.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. And do we want to throw anything out for you, Nick? Do you want to tell people what you're doing these days?
Yeah,
You can
just-
say no if you.
No, I don't mind
Okay.
saying. Basically, I'm a high school teacher down in San Diego, and I probably have roughly about 5 more years, and I'm going to retire.
I'm jealous.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm jealous too.
And then, I have not ruled out, like after I retire as a teacher, about maybe doing something in the Tiki world again.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
That's exciting
And
to
if
hear.
I do it, I'm going to get my good friend Kari Hendler, who was my assistant editor at Tiki Magazine, to do it with me.
We love Kari.
Kari's awesome.
Yeah, Kari's awesome. We love Kari. So.
Her ears are burning right now.
And so for our listeners that don't know, that voice you hear in the background, that's Kari. She's taking photos of us. We feel like we're important because we've got a paparazzi person here taking shots.
I've never
of
had
us,
that
right?
happen before.
Right.
It'll
So
probably never happen again.
Yeah. Well, guys, I just want to say one more time, I want to thank you so much for giving up some of your Saturday to sit down with the podcast. Thank you so
No, it
much.
was fun. I was
my
looking
pleasure.
forward to doing this
Thank
as
you.
soon as,
Thank
soon
you.
as you suggested it.
And I want to thank Kari. Kari, come over here.
Hello.
Talking to my microphone. I want to thank Kari for suggesting that we put Nick and Ken together, the two titans.
Hi there. Yeah, well, this was, what an historic opportunity in Tiki history to have the man who created Tiki magazine, the first glossy magazine that, we were international by the second issue and then worldwide and everything. He's here at Tiki Caliente this year, and then Kent's here with Exotica Moderne, which is, has taken Tiki Magazine's place and done it very beautifully.
Thank you. Thank
you.
you.
As somebody who wrote for the original Tiki Magazine for its first 8 or 9 years, Nick and I worked together and took a lot of pictures. When Exotica Moderne came out, there was a little, in my heart, there was a little like, oh, you know what I mean?
Don't screw this up.
Yeah, well, no, it was like, oh, I feel sort of sad. And then I picked up the copy and I opened it up and I said, he's doing it right. He's absolutely doing it
Thank
right.
you.
And nothing makes me happier to know that it's been coming out of the Midwest, which is doing such amazing things for Tiki culture right
Yeah,
now.
it's really interesting.
I mean,
It's
the Midwest is rocking.
it's a good
it.
time to live in snow.
Yeah. Well, but so
It's never a good time to live in snow. But.
so yeah. Thanks for the shout out, Adrian. It was just such a rare opportunity. I mean, it was look at this is Tiki history that you're sitting with here.
Right.
So
And
so
look at this.
We're
look
like
at this.
we're like two members of the five families, or is that what we're doing here?
I guess. I wish people could see like what's happening right now, because this is really is history in the making here. We have, it's kind of like the passing of the torch, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
As long as I don't set my hair on fire, I'm happy with that.
Right. I'm happy with that too, Ken.
It might happen, sometime. My hair's on fire. I got to get this issue out.
There you go.
I know that feeling.
Yeah.
I know that feeling of the podcast, because
yeah.
people are always asking me, when's that new issue or that new episode coming out? So
Yeah, that's great.
we're going to bring this out hopefully soon, hopefully within the next 30 days. I do have other episodes that
Okay.
I'm recording all kinds of stuff here at
Yep.
Tiki Caliente,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Good to see a lot of
we've got
people,
a lot
I
of
bet.
people here.
Of course, this is the most important one.
This
but-
is the most important one, so we're going to expedite this one. But again, I can't stress enough how much I appreciate both of you taking time out on this Saturday to sit down with
That was fun.
inside the Desert Oasis room. Thank you so
And
much.
It was exciting that I got to meet Nick. Because
Yeah,
everybody's
yeah,
like, you
yeah.
should meet Nick. Do you know Nick? You should meet Nick.
Right. You've probably
So-
been hearing that for a long time.
I've been hearing it since
And
last
you've-
year,
And you've
yes.
probably been hearing that for a long
I
time
have.
by Ken, right?
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad we were able to do this.
Yeah,
Right,
so
yeah,
cool.
it's been
All
great.
right. So, you guys out there, if you have any questions, comments, or want to leave a shout out for Ken or Nick, go to our group page on Facebook, Inside the Desert Oasis Room. You can send us a note at desertoasisroom.com. You can follow us on Instagram at Polynesian Pop. Until the next time, cheers and
And
aloha.
aloha.
Aloha, guys.
All right, guys.
Cheers.